My fiancé demanded, "I want a $180,000 wedding or no wedding at all." I replied, "Then there won't be one," and canceled everything. She lost her mind, then tried to sabotage my promotion. Too bad I nuked her life. Sup, Reddit. This happened over the course of 10 months, and I'm still getting messages from people asking what the heck went down. Time to set the record straight. This is the story of how my ex-fiancé went from princess to peasant, and why she should have never underestimated a guy like me. Grab your popcorn and read the whole thing. It gets brutal. I'm 29 male, senior systems analyst at a Fortune 500 company, pulling down $95,000 plus bonuses. Comfortable enough to have my own place, a decent car, and some savings. My fiancée Roxy worked in marketing at the same company, making about $60,000 and spending like she was already married to my paycheck. We'd been together 4 years, engaged for 8 months. Originally agreed on a $30,000 wedding budget, something we could swing without touching our emergency funds or going into debt like a couple of morons. Everything was fine until Roxy started hanging out with this new friend from her yoga class, Paisley, some trust fund princess whose daddy paid for her $200,000 wedding the year before. That's when Roxy went from the normal, practical woman I fell for to an entitled monster practically a few weeks. It started small. She'd come home talking about Paisley's wedding, showing me photos on her phone, making innocent little comments about how intimate our planned celebration was going to be. The way she said intimate made it sound like we were planning a funeral instead of a wedding. Then she started researching venues during her lunch breaks. Suddenly, she's an expert on thread counts for table linens and the difference between blush and dusty rose centerpieces. She'd call me at work to discuss the pros and cons of various cake flavors like we were negotiating international treaties. The first red flag should have been when she booked appointments at places we definitely couldn't afford just to get ideas. She'd come home with brochures for venues that charged more for one night than most people spend on cars, talking about inspiration. But like an idiot, I figured what's the harm in looking? Maybe we'd get some inspiration for decorating our actual venue on a budget. Maybe she'd realize how ridiculous the expensive places were and appreciate our options. Big mistake. Worst idea ever. She starts coming home later and later, claiming she's wedding planning with Paisley. Apparently this involved hitting up every overpriced vendor in a 50-mile radius. I should have known something was seriously wrong when she started using phrases like curated experience and bespoke celebration. This is the same woman who used to think Olive Garden was fancy dining. Then came the Tuesday night that changed everything. Roxy walks in around 8 p.m. with this smug look on her face, drops her laptop on the kitchen counter where I'm making dinner, and announces she's been running some numbers. I'm looking at a spreadsheet from hell. Our simple $30,000 wedding had somehow exploded into a $180,000 production. $180,000. For one day. Let me break down this insanity for you. Venue rental for the weekend. $45,000. Photography and videography. $18,000. Her dress. $12,000. Yes, $12,000 for something she'd wear once. Flowers that would die the next day. $15,000. Catering. $35,000. Live band. $25,000. Some group Paisley recommended. Wedding planner. $8,000. To coordinate this circus. And that wasn't even everything. There were line items for things I'd never heard of. Interesting math, I said, not looking up from the spreadsheet. We agreed on $30,000. She rolls her eyes. That was before I understood what quality vendors actually cost, babe. Before I realized how cheap we were being about the most important day of our lives. She called our reasonable budget cheap. Roxy, this is more than half my annual salary. For one day. It's not just one day, it's the day. It's our wedding day. She's getting that condescending tone. Paisley spent $200,000 and said it was worth every single penny. Her photos are incredible. Her whole day was perfect. Paisley's dad owns half the oil fields in Texas. We're not them. Wrong thing to say. Her face goes cold, and I realize I've just insulted her new messiah. So what? I'm supposed to settle for some backyard barbecue because you're too cheap to invest in our future? This is embarrassing, honestly. All my friends are going to think you don't value me enough to give me a proper wedding. Your friends are idiots if they think love is measured by catering costs. Then she drops the nuclear bomb. You will make my dream wedding come true, or I'm not walking down any aisle. Period. This is non-negotiable. I just stared at her. This woman who used to split pizza costs down to the penny and shop sales at Target was demanding I spend nearly 2 years of gross salary on one party. Then I guess there won't be a wedding, I said, without missing a beat. She laughed. Right. You're going to cancel our wedding and look like a complete loser to everyone we know because you're too cheap to make me happy. Sure, I'm going to avoid financial ruin because my fiancé thinks love comes with a price tag. The next morning, Roxy's gone before I wake up. Left a note saying she was having breakfast with Paisley to discuss wedding logistics. Translation: they were probably plotting my financial destruction over avocado toast. I should have known Paisley was poison from the moment I met her. Picture this: 26 years old disaster, never worked a day in her life, drives a BMW daddy bought her, and talks about money like it grows on trees in her backyard. She had this habit of touching everything in our apartment like she was appraising it for an estate sale. She'd pick up Roxy's engagement ring, examine it under the light, and make little comments like, "Oh, this is sweet," in a tone that suggested it was anything but sweet. Roxy comes home that afternoon with Paisley in tow, both of them carrying shopping bags from boutiques I'd never heard of. Paisley gives me this fake smile and launches into what I now realize was a carefully rehearsed speech. "Roxy's told me so much about you. She's so lucky to have found someone who loves her enough to give her the wedding she deserves. I was just telling her about my wedding planner. She's a miracle worker. I can give you her number." I'm standing there thinking, "Lady, you don't even know me, but you're already spending my money. That's generous, but we're keeping things simple," I said. Paisley's smile falters for about half a second. "Oh, well, simple can be nice too, I guess." Though Roxy mentioned you're looking at some really special venues. The country club is gorgeous, definitely worth splurging for. We're not splurging. We have a budget. Roxy jumps in. Paisley knows the events coordinator there. She might be able to get us a discount. A discount on a $45,000 venue rental, like getting 10% off a Lamborghini. Over the next few weeks, Paisley became a constant presence. She'd show up at our apartment uninvited, always with new inspiration for Roxy. The woman treated our living room like her personal office, spreading wedding magazines across every surface and turning our coffee table into a shrine to overpriced matrimonial nonsense. But here's what really got to me. She started talking to Roxy like I wasn't in the room. They'd sit on our couch, looking at wedding stuff on their phones, and Paisley would say things like, "If he really loved you, he'd want you to have everything you dreamed of. You shouldn't have to compromise on your special day because of a budget. Maybe he just doesn't understand how important this is to you." Always loud enough for me to hear, always phrased like sage wisdom. This chick had never paid for anything in her life, but somehow she was an expert on what constituted reasonable wedding expenses. The breaking point came 3 weeks later. I get home from work to find Roxy and Paisley in the kitchen with a bottle of drink, surrounded by vendor contracts and bridal magazines. They're giggling like schoolgirls, clearly a few glasses in. "Oh good, you're home," Roxy says, way too bright and cheerful. "We have some exciting news." Paisley holds up a contract. "I put Roxy in touch with my wedding planner, and she had a cancellation for your date. Someone backed out of their $200,000 package, so there's an opening." My blood pressure spiked. "We're not spending $200,000 on a wedding. It's not $200,000 anymore," Roxy says quickly. "It's only $180,000 because we're getting their cancellation rate." Only $180,000. Like that was some kind of bargain. Paisley leans forward like she's about to share state secrets. "Honestly, this is such a good deal. When I got married, we would have killed for rates like this. You're basically getting a $20,000 discount. We're not getting anything because we're not spending $180,000 on a freaking wedding." The room goes quiet. Paisley looks at Roxy with this theatrical expression of shock and disappointment, like she's witnessing domestic violence. "Maybe I should go," Paisley says, standing up slowly. "This seems like something you two need to work out privately." She gathers her purse, gives Roxy this meaningful look, and heads for the door. But before she leaves, she turns back and says, "Roxy, you deserve to be with someone who values you enough to give you the wedding you've always dreamed of. Don't settle for less than you're worth." Then she's gone, leaving Roxy and me staring at each other across a kitchen full of vendor contracts and empty glasses. "She's right," Roxy says after a long moment, her voice dripping with entitlement. "I do deserve better than this." Better than what? A reasonable celebration we can actually afford? Better than having to beg my own fiancé to care about our wedding day? You're not begging me to care. You're demanding I prove my love by going broke. After Paisley's dramatic exit, Roxy went into full manipulation mode. First came the silent treatment. 3 days of her moving around the apartment like I was invisible, sighing dramatically every time she looked at her phone or opened her laptop. She'd leave wedding magazines open to pages featuring $15,000 photography packages and $8,000 flower arrangements, always in places where I'd be sure to see them. She even started playing wedding-related YouTube videos at high volume while I was trying to work from home. I just kept doing my thing, completely unbothered. Made my coffee, watched my shows, went about my business like nothing was happening. Two can play the ignore game, and I'd had more practice. Then she moved on to the guilt trips. I showed Paisley the photos from her cousin's wedding yesterday, she'd say while I was trying to watch TV. The venue was so beautiful. Her cousin spent $150,000 and said it was the best money she ever spent. Ew, that's nice, I'd reply without looking away from the screen. Or, my mom called. She's so excited about the wedding. She keeps asking about details, and I don't know what to tell her anymore. She's already started shopping for her mother of the bride dress. Tell her we're still planning within our budget. Each guilt trip was meant to make me feel like I was not just disappointing Roxy, but her entire family and social circle. When that didn't work, she tried the public pressure campaign. She starts posting more frequently on Instagram. Pictures of wedding dresses with captions like, "Can't wait to find the dress." Photos of fancy venues with "trying to narrow down our options." So many beautiful choices. Always tagging me, always making it sound like we were planning some extravagant celebration. Her friends started commenting, "Girl, you're going to be the most beautiful bride. This is going to be the wedding of the century. So jealous of your perfect life." Meanwhile, I'm sitting there knowing she'd rather call off the whole thing than have a reasonable celebration within our means. But the real kicker was when she started involving my friends and family. My mom calls me one Sunday afternoon, all excited. "Roxy showed me some of the wedding venues you're looking at. They're gorgeous, honey. You must be so excited." I hadn't told my mom we were looking at venues that cost more than her annual salary. "Mom, we're still figuring things out." "Oh, I know wedding planning can be stressful. But Roxy seems to have such good taste. You're such a good man for wanting to give her everything she wants." Then my friend Adam calls me after running into Roxy at the grocery store. "Dude, Roxy was telling me about your wedding plans. Sounds intense, man. She was showing me photos of the country club you're booking. That place is fancy as heck." "We haven't booked anything, Adam." "Oh." She made it sound like it was a done deal. This went on for weeks. Every conversation with friends or family somehow included details about our wedding plans that I'd never agreed to. Roxy had created this alternate reality where I was happily planning an $18,000 celebration, and she was spreading that story to everyone who'd listen. The final straw came when she started crying. She'd tear up whenever the wedding came up, talking about how she'd dreamed about her wedding day since she was a little girl, and how she just wanted to feel like a princess for one day. "I don't understand why you don't want me to be happy," she'd sob. "Every other man would be thrilled to give his fiancée the wedding of her dreams." "Because every other man isn't responsible for your happiness, Roxy. That's your job." Then came the ultimatum, delivered through tears that I'm now 90% sure were fake. "I can't marry someone who doesn't think I'm worth investing in. If you can't see that our wedding day is worth the money, then maybe you don't really love me the way I thought you did." She pauses for maximum dramatic effect. "I'm going to book the venue and the vendors. If you love me, you'll find a way to make it work. If you don't, then I guess we'll both know where we stand." "Go ahead and book them," I said calmly. "But you're booking them with your money, not mine." That's when I realized this girl had gone completely delusional. She wasn't just demanding an expensive wedding anymore. She was living in a fantasy where I was going to magically produce $180,000 because she decided that's what love looked like. She'd lost touch with reality. Time to bring her back to earth. The next morning, Roxy's up early, which is unusual for her on a Saturday. Normally, she'd sleep until noon and then spend 2 hours getting ready to go get coffee. But today, she's in the kitchen before 8 a.m. I found her in the kitchen with her laptop and about 50 printouts. She's got highlighters out, sticky notes everywhere, and a legal pad covered in calculations that look like she's trying to split the atom. "Morning, babe," she says, way too cheerful. "I've got some exciting updates." She's got vendor contracts spread across the entire kitchen table. I talked to Paisley yesterday, and she helped me prioritize everything. We can do the flowers for $12,000 instead of $15,000 if we go with her guy, and the photographer will give us the friends and family rate of $15,000 instead of $18,000. She's acting like she just saved the world. "Look, I even figured out a payment plan." She shows me a spreadsheet that breaks down $180,000 into monthly payments over 2 years. It's only $7,500 a month. That's totally doable if we both cut back on some things. And she wanted us to spend more per month on wedding payments than she made in gross salary. Where exactly do you think we're going to find an extra $7,500 every month? Well, you could pick up some freelance work, and I could maybe get a part-time job on weekends. Or we could borrow against your 401k. Borrow against my retirement to pay for her party. The woman had officially lost her dang mind. Roxy, this is insane. We agreed on $30,000. That's already a stretch for us. Her face changes. The fake cheerfulness disappears, replaced by this cold look. No, you decided on $30,000. I never agreed to that. We talked about this for hours. You said $30,000 sounded reasonable. I was being supportive. I was waiting for you to step up and be a man about this. There it was. You know what Paisley's husband did when she found her dream venue? He didn't whine about the cost. He said, "Whatever makes you happy, baby," and he made it happen. Paisley's husband is a trust fund kid whose dad owns oil wells. So, you make good money. You could make more if you really wanted to. You're just choosing to be lazy about it. Lazy. She called me lazy for not wanting to work myself to death to pay for her fantasy wedding. Roxy, I'm not taking on extra work so you can have gold-plated napkins and a 7-course dinner for people who'll forget about it in 6 months. She stands up so fast her chair falls over. Forget about it? Forget about it? This is our wedding, you selfish jerk. This is the most important day of our lives, and you're treating it like it's some casual party. Now she's screaming, and I can hear the neighbors upstairs stopping whatever they were doing to listen to the show. You want to know what I think? I think you don't really want to marry me. I think you're using the money as an excuse because you're scared of commitment. Classic deflection. You're absolutely right, I said calmly. I don't want to marry someone who thinks love is measured by how much money I'm willing to throw away on one day. That stopped her cold. For about 5 seconds, she just stared at me like I'd slapped her. Then the waterworks started. Angry tears. The kind that come with screaming and throwing things. Fine. If that's how you really feel, then we're done. I'm not wasting any more time on someone who doesn't value me enough to give me what I deserve. She storms toward the bedroom, then turns back. And just so you know, I'm going to tell everyone exactly what kind of cheap, selfish person you really are. She wasn't just trying to manipulate me anymore. She was threatening to destroy my reputation if I didn't comply. Well, big mistake. Roxy spent the weekend at Paisley's place, probably planning her next assault on my finances and sanity. She left behind all those vendor contracts and her wedding planning binder, like she expected me to study up and come to my senses while she was gone. Instead, I used the time to call my best friend Damon, who's been my voice of reason since college and happens to be a lawyer now, specializing in corporate litigation. He's also ruthless as heck when someone crosses someone he cares about. Bro, she's completely lost it, I tell him after explaining the whole situation. Dude, this isn't about a wedding anymore. This is about control and manipulation. She's trying to bully you into bankrupting yourself. Yeah, I'm starting to see that. What are you going to do? I'm going to give her exactly what she asked for. Damon laughs. I know that tone. You're about to go nuclear, aren't you? She wants to play hardball. Game on. Good. About time you grew a spine. What do you need from me? Legal advice, and help making sure I don't miss anything when I burn this whole thing down. I'm in. This sounds like it's going to be fun. I spent Sunday documenting everything. Every text message where Roxy dismissed our budget. Every email where she acknowledged spending money without asking. Every Instagram post where she'd made it sound like I was on board with expenses I'd never agreed to. Damon helped me organize it all into a timeline that would make prosecutors weep with joy. But here's the thing. I wasn't just dealing with wedding planning gone wrong. I was dealing with fraud. See, Roxy had been using our joint credit card for deposits and planning expenses, claiming it was wedding stuff whenever I asked about charges I didn't recognize. I'd trusted her and stopped asking for details. Turns out she'd racked up about $15,000 in unauthorized charges over the past 3 months. Deposits on vendors I'd never heard of, dress appointments at boutiques that charged consultation fees, even a dang venue booking fee for Paisley's recommendation. Every single charge was made without my knowledge or consent, and I had text messages proving that I'd consistently told her our budget was $30,000. So I started calling everyone. First up, the country club. Spoke to their events coordinator, a woman named Brenda who remembered us from our tour. Hi Brenda, this is regarding the Jenkins Hale wedding booking. I need to cancel that immediately. Oh no! Is everything all right? Are you postponing to a different date? No, canceling permanently. The engagement is off, and the booking was made without my authorization. Got the full deposit back since Roxy had apparently put down $5,000 without telling me. Then I went down the list. The photographer who charged more per hour than I make in a day. The florist who acted like roses were made of platinum. The caterer who wanted to charge us for a 7-course meal that would have impressed Gordon Ramsay. Every cancellation felt good as hell. But the real kicker was what I found when I dug deeper into the credit card statements. Roxy hadn't just been spending on wedding stuff, She'd been living beyond her means for months, using our joint account to subsidize her lifestyle. Expensive dinners with Paisley that she'd claimed were work meetings, shopping trips for wedding planning outfits, spa days for stress relief from wedding planning. She'd spent nearly $8,000 on herself in 3 months, all while lecturing me about being cheap and not supporting her dreams. Damon was laughing his ass off when I showed him the evidence. Dude, she didn't just demand an expensive wedding. She's been defrauding you for months. This is theft. What are my options? Criminally, you could press charges for unauthorized use of your credit card. Civilly, you could sue for recovery of the fraudulent charges. Personally, I'd burn her whole dang world down. Option 3 sounds good. When Roxy came home Monday evening, she immediately knew something was wrong. Her phone had been buzzing all day with vendors calling to confirm cancellations. What the heck did you do? She screams the second she walks in. Exactly what you told me to do. You said $180,000 or no wedding. You're getting no wedding. She loses her mind, starts screaming about how I've embarrassed her, how I've ruined everything, how I'm pathetic and cheap, and she should have known better than to expect me to be a real man about this. You think you're teaching me some kind of lesson? All you're doing is proving that you don't love me enough to make me happy. Paisley was right. I deserve better than this. I just sat there and let her rant. When she finally ran out of steam, I looked at her and said, "Pack your stuff. You have 48 hours to get out of my apartment. You can't kick me out. I live here too. Actually, I can. Check the lease. Only my name is on it." Her face went white. In 4 years together, she'd never bothered to get added to the lease. Always said she trusted me, that it was easier with one name on the paperwork. Turns out that trust only went one way. Roxy moved out, but not quietly. She spent those 48 hours alternating between begging me to reconsider and threatening to destroy my reputation. Paisley showed up the second day to help her pack, which mostly involved the two of them sitting on my couch and talking trash about me loud enough for me to hear in the next room. "He's showing his true colors now," Paisley kept saying. "You're so much better off without him. My dad always said you can tell a man's character by how he treats money, and cheap men stay cheap. I can't believe I wasted 4 years on someone so selfish," Roxy replied. "All my friends are going to ask what happened. This is so embarrassing. They were putting on a show, hoping I'd cave and come crawling back with an apology and a checkbook. Instead, I stayed in my room, working on my laptop and documenting every threat and insult for Damon. After she left, Roxy launched a full-scale character assassination campaign. She told everyone who'd listen that I was a cheap, controlling jerk who'd broken her heart because I was too selfish to give her a proper wedding. Most people saw right through her nonsense, but a few believed her sob story, including some people at work, which is where things got really interesting. Remember how Roxy and I worked at the same company? She was in marketing, I was in IT, but word travels fast in corporate environments. Within a week, I was getting sympathetic looks from colleagues who'd heard her version of events. Then I found out she'd been doing more than just spreading gossip. There was a senior analyst position opening up in the financial systems department, a $20,000 raise, and a clear path to management. I'd been planning to apply but hadn't mentioned it to Roxy yet. 2 weeks after she moved out, my boss Bruce pulled me aside for what I thought was going to be a routine check-in. "Hey, I need to ask you something kind of awkward," he says, looking uncomfortable. "HR got some concerns raised about your emotional stability after your breakup. Someone suggested you might not be ready for increased responsibilities right now." My blood turned to ice. "Someone? I can't say who, but they mentioned you've been having personal issues that might affect your judgment, especially with access to sensitive financial data." Roxy. She was actively trying to sabotage my career to get back at me for refusing to bankrupt myself for her wedding. "Bruce, whoever told you that is lying. My personal life has never interfered with my work." "I know, and I told them that. But I had to give you a heads up that someone's spreading poison." That evening, I called Damon and told him about Roxy's latest move. He was quiet for a long moment, then said, "Dude, she just made the biggest mistake of her life. She's not just being vindictive anymore. She's actively trying to damage your career. That's tortious interference, and in some cases, it could be considered harassment. But more importantly, it means she's escalated this to warfare." "Good. I'm tired of playing defense. What do you want to do?" "I want to destroy her." That's when Damon told me about something that would make Roxy's wedding budget look like pocket change, the cost of her career. See, I'd been thinking about Roxy's travel expenses for work, marketing conferences, client meetings, the occasional overnight trip, standard stuff. But something had been bugging me about her expense reports, little inconsistencies I'd noticed when we'd talked about her trips. I had access to the company's financial systems, all of them, including expense report databases and credit card transaction records. What I found made my blood boil. Roxy had been systematically defrauding the company for over a year. Fake dinner receipts claiming meals for four when she ate alone. Inflated hotel charges. Uber rides she never took. Personal shopping trips disguised as client entertainment. But the real kicker was the drinks. Company policy strictly forbade expensing alcoholic beverages, but Roxy had been disguising booze purchases as team building activities and client dinners. I found receipts for $300 bottles claimed as networking events that were just her and Paisley getting tipsy on the company's dime. Total damage, about $12,000 over 18 months. Damon looked at the evidence and whistled. This is a felony. Multiple felonies, actually. She's looking at serious jail time if they prosecute. They will prosecute. What's your play? I'm going to give her exactly what she deserves. But I didn't go to HR first. I went straight to Roxy's boss, Joel, the marketing director. Good guy, been with the company for 15 years. Joel, I need to show you something about Roxy Hale. His face went pale as I walked him through 18 months of fabricated expenses, fake receipts, and policy violations. Jesus Christ! How long has this been going on? At least a year and a half, probably longer. I only have access to the financial systems going back that far. Why are you bringing this to me instead of going directly to HR? Because she's been telling people I'm emotionally unstable since our breakup. I wanted you to see the evidence that she's a thief before she tries to spin this as revenge from a bitter ex. 2 hours later, Roxy got called into a meeting with HR, her boss, and the company's legal counsel. She was fired that afternoon and escorted out by security. But I wasn't done. The next few months were insane. Roxy's entire life just fell apart, and I got to watch it happen. First came the criminal investigation. The company pressed charges for the expense fraud, and the evidence was overwhelming. Damon connected me with a prosecutor friend of his, who said it was one of the cleanest white-collar cases he'd ever seen. Roxy had basically documented her own crimes through expense reports and company credit card statements. Then there were the civil consequences. I disputed every single unauthorized charge on our joint credit card, all $15,000 worth. The credit card company reversed them after I provided documentation that Roxy had made fraudulent purchases without my knowledge or consent. Watching those charges disappear from my account was almost therapeutic. Suddenly, Roxy owed $15,000 to various wedding vendors with no income and no way to pay them. The vendors started filing liens and judgments when she couldn't make payments. But the real satisfaction came from watching her social media presence crumble. Remember how she'd been posting about her perfect life and tagging me in posts about our supposed wedding plans? All of that disappeared overnight, replaced by vague posts about new chapters and learning who your real friends are. Paisley, her toxic enabler, vanished the moment Roxy couldn't afford expensive brunches and shopping trips. Turns out their friendship was entirely based on spending money Roxy didn't have. 6 months after she moved out, I got the promotion she'd tried to sabotage. Turns out, reporting her fraud made me look like exactly the kind of ethical, detail-oriented person they wanted in a senior position. $115,000 salary, plus bonuses, plus the respect of colleagues who saw how professionally I'd handled the whole situation. Meanwhile, Roxy couldn't get another marketing job because word had gotten around about the expense fraud. Our industry is smaller than you think, and news like that travels fast. Last I heard through mutual friends, she was working retail at the mall and living with her parents. I started dating again about 8 months after Roxy moved out. Met Julia through a friend at work. She's a teacher, down to earth. When I told her about Roxy and the $180,000 demand, Julia laughed so hard she nearly choked on her drink. She wanted you to spend what on flowers? That's more than I make teaching kindergarten for an entire year. But the real closure came almost exactly 1 year after Roxy had moved out. I'm at home on a Saturday morning, making coffee and reading, when my phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. Hey, it's Roxy. I got a new number. Can we talk? I almost deleted it without responding, but curiosity got the better of me. What about? I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I really need to talk to you. In person. Please. It's important. I screenshot the conversation and send it to Damon, who responds immediately. Do not meet with her alone. If you're going to do this, do it in public and record everything. I agreed to meet her at a coffee shop downtown. Neutral territory, plenty of witnesses, and I'd have my phone recording the whole conversation. I almost didn't recognize her when she walked in. Roxy had always been put together. She used to spend 45 minutes getting ready just to go to the grocery store. The woman who walked into that coffee shop looked like she'd aged 5 years in 12 months. She'd lost weight, and not in a healthy way. More like stress and ramen noodles had become her primary diet. She was wearing jeans and a basic sweater that looked like they came from Target, the kind of clothes she used to mock when we'd walk through the mall. "Thank you for meeting me," she says as she sits down. "I wasn't sure you would. I almost didn't. What do you want, Roxy?" She takes a deep breath like she's about to deliver a rehearsed speech. "I want to apologize. For everything. I know I hurt you, and I know I handled the wedding thing completely wrong. I wasn't thinking clearly. I just waited for her to continue. The truth is, I've had a really hard year. Losing my job, the legal stuff, having to move back in with my parents. It's been humbling. I've had a lot of time to think about what went wrong between us. And what conclusion did you come to? That I was an idiot? That I let Paisley fill my head with stupid ideas about what love was supposed to look like?" She pauses, clearly hoping I'll jump in with some kind of forgiveness or understanding. When I don't, she continues, "I know I can't undo what I did, but I was hoping. Maybe we could try again. Start over. I'm different now. I understand what really matters." I almost laughed. After everything she'd put me through, she thought she could show up looking pathetic, and I'd take her back. "You understand what really matters now?" "Like what?" "Like having someone who loves you enough to build a life with you." "I see that now." "You see that now because you don't have any money to spend." "That's not personal growth, Roxy. That's just being broke." Her face crumpled a little, but she pressed on. "I know you're with someone else now. Julia, right? I heard through friends. But maybe if you gave me another chance, I could prove that I'm not the same person who demanded that ridiculous wedding." "You're right. You're not the same person. You're worse." I was hurt and angry. I made mistakes. "You committed felonies, Roxy. You tried to sabotage my promotion because you were mad I wouldn't bankrupt myself for your fantasy wedding." She's crying now, but I felt nothing. No sympathy, no regret, no urge to comfort her. "I know I messed up. I know I have no right to ask for anything from you. But I'm desperate. I can't find a decent job. I can't afford my own place. My parents are disappointed in me. And everyone I thought was my friend disappeared the moment I couldn't afford to keep up with them." There it was. She wasn't here because she'd realized she loved me, or because she wanted to make amends. She was here because her life had turned to garbage, and she wanted me to rescue her. "So you thought you'd come back to your backup plan? It's not like that. It's exactly like that." She's sobbing now, drawing stares from other customers. "Please. I know I don't deserve it, but I need help. I need someone who understands me. Someone who knew me before everything went wrong. We were good together once. We could be good together again." I stood up to leave. "Roxy, we were never good together. I was just too stupid to see that you were using me. And when I stopped being useful to you, you tried to destroy me. I'm sorry, I'm so dang sorry. I'll do anything to make it up to you." "There's nothing you can do. You showed me exactly who you are, and I believe you." I started walking toward the door, then turned back. "Oh, and Roxy? Next time you need money, try asking Paisley. I'm sure she'll help out her old friend." The look on her face told me everything. What can I say? Karma's a bitch, and sometimes it needs some help. Update. For everyone asking. Yes, Roxy did reach out again recently. I've blocked her on everything, but she keeps creating new accounts. I'm considering a restraining order if it continues. Also, Damon says the criminal case is moving forward, and Roxy's looking at potential jail time. Final update. Roxy got 6 months in county jail and 3 years probation. She also owes the company $27,000 in restitution. They found even more fraudulent expenses after they dug deeper. Her parents are struggling to pay her legal fees. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button. It tells YouTube this video deserves to blow up, and it keeps even crazier stories coming your way.